How could the greatest empire of antiquity, capable of conquering vast lands and diverse cultures, be stopped by a forest? Rome, with its unbeatable legions, encountered not just a defeat in Teutoburg, but an impenetrable barrier. But what if that battle had never taken place? What would have become of Germania, or even Europe? For centuries, Rome believed nothing was beyond its reach. The wild and untamed lands to the north were seen as the next great prize. Emperor Augustus dreamed of expanding Rome's borders deep into Germania, entrusting Publius Quinctilius Varus with the mission of subjugating it. Yet, Rome's arrogance met its match, not in an army, but in the cunning of Arminius, an ally-turned-traitor who became one of history's greatest betrayers. Imagine the scene. Thousands of Roman soldiers marching confidently, ready to impose the order of the empire, when suddenly, the dense Germanic forest closes in on them like a deadly trap. Torrential rain, treacherous terrain, the cries of former allies now turned enemies, and the growing fear that the dream of conquest was becoming a nightmare with no escape. But the impact of this defeat went far beyond a single lost battle. Teutoburg didn't just derail Rome's plans. It redefined the empire's limits, shaping decisions that would echo for centuries. Why did Rome never attempt to conquer Germania again, even with its unmatched military might? And what can this battle teach us about the limits of power and the price of ignoring warning signs? Today, you'll uncover how the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest marked a turning point in Rome's expansion. We'll explore the ambition that drove Rome northward, the horrors faced by its legions in their deadliest ambush, and the lessons Augustus's generals learned. Lessons that changed the course of the empire and Europe itself. In this video, we'll dive deep into the story behind this epic defeat, analyzing Varus's strategic mistakes, Arminius's brilliant tactics, and the psychological impact that shaped Rome's future decisions. Get ready for a journey full of mysteries, twists, and timeless lessons that still resonate today. If you love epic stories and want to uncover the secrets behind the greatest triumphs and defeats of the Roman Empire, subscribe to the channel now. Here, you'll find daily videos that dive into strategies, mysteries, and fascinating historical facts with incredible detail. And don't forget to leave a like. It helps this content reach more people who share a passion for history. Together, let's explore the lessons that shaped the ancient world. From the height of its glory, Rome saw itself as an empire destined to conquer the ends of the known world. Its legions had crushed the greatest powers of the Mediterranean, braved the deserts of Egypt, and subdued the mountains of Hispania. For many in Rome, Germania was just another frontier to tame, a mysterious land full of promises. Augustus, the first emperor, envisioned more than wealth. He sought to secure the borders from the Rhine to the Elbe, transforming Germania's tribal chaos into organized provinces. But what did Rome truly know about this untamed land? Germania was much more than an unknown territory. Its dense forests, treacherous rivers, and fierce, independent people presented a resistance that even Rome's war machine didn't fully comprehend. Still, Roman generals trusted in the power of their legions and the Pax Romana as tools to subdue any enemy. Publius Quinctilius Varus, appointed by Augustus's governor, was tasked with pacifying the region. His mission was clear: to transform disorganized tribes into loyal taxpayers of the empire. But could Roman order prevail in a land it barely understood? Varus believed in the mission to civilize the so-called barbarians. With a confidence bordering on arrogance, he ignored warnings about the volatility of Germanic alliances and placed blind faith in the loyalty of Arminius, a young Germanic warrior trained by the Romans. To Varus, Arminius was the key to uniting the tribes and ensuring a smooth transition to imperium. However, not everyone shared this trust. Some Roman officers noticed signs of betrayal, but their voices of doubt went unheard. What price would Rome pay for this unwavering belief in its own superiority? As Varus marched with his 3 legions deep into Germania, the mood in Rome was one of excitement. Reports of successful campaigns reinforced the narrative that the northern lands were finally within the empire's grasp. Nobles and merchants dreamed of new wealth, while Augustus saw the conquest as a legacy that would unite the empire once and for all. Confidence was so high that no one even considered the possibility of disaster. But what if that confidence was Rome's undoing? Varus's march into the Germanic heartland seemed, at first, like an inevitable triumph. However, as the troops advanced, the paths began to narrow, the forests grew more oppressive, and messages from Arminius became increasingly scarce. The echoes of the forests carried omens the Romans could not understand. But how could an ambush in the Teutoburg Forest bring an empire that seemed indestructible to its knees? The first signs that something was amiss began subtly. Trails that had been open turned into a maze of mud and tangled branches, while the damp weather slowed progress to a crawl. Despite this, Varus trusted Arminius's assurances, believing the Germanic guide would lead the legions safely to allied tribal territories. What Varus didn't know was that Arminius, far from being an ally, was plotting a betrayal that would become one of the greatest twists in military history. How did he manage to deceive Rome so completely? The ambush was meticulously planned. Arminius vanished under the pretext of gathering local reinforcements, but in reality, he was rallying thousands of Germanic warriors, armed and ready to strike. By the time the Romans found themselves deep in the heart of the Teutoburg Forest, they were completely isolated. With no room to form their traditional battle lines and their supplies dwindling, the legions were at the mercy of an enemy who knew every inch of the terrain. How could Rome's famed organization handle such an unpredictable situation? The first attack came like thunder breaking the forest silence. Arrows rained down from above as Germanic warriors emerged from the shadows in swift, brutal strikes. The legions tried to resist, but chaos consumed them. Every attempt to organize a defense was thwarted by the dense vegetation and relentless assaults. For the Roman soldiers, the disciplined formations that made them feared on open battlefields became a liability in this claustrophobic environment. What must have crossed Varus's mind as he realized the defeat was unavoidable? Burdened by the weight of responsibility, Varus made desperate attempts to save what remained of his forces. The decision to retreat was a bitter blow to his pride, but the brutal reality of the ambush left him with few choices. Even so, the withdrawal was slow and agonizing. Each step brought new skirmishes. Every attempt to regroup ended in more chaos. As the battle reached its climax, Varus made the ultimate decision to deny the enemy the satisfaction of capturing them. Yet Varus's death marked only the beginning of this defeat's profound impact. When news reached Rome, the devastation was unparalleled. 3 entire legions, about 20,000 men, had been annihilated. The eagle standards, symbols of military honor, were lost. Augustus, gripped by despair, is said to have cried out in his palace, "Varus, give me back my legions." But how did this tragedy reshape Rome's strategy and influence its future decisions about Germania and beyond? The defeat at Teutoburg echoed like a wake-up call among Rome's leaders. For the first time in decades, Rome faced a reality it couldn't ignore. Its traditional methods of expansion had limits in a land where military discipline and infrastructure were not enough. Augustus and his successors found themselves at a crossroads. Was revenge a strategic goal or merely an emotional whim? While the Senate debated, Tiberius, Augustus's heir, devised a plan to restore Roman honor without further compromising the empire. But could prudence and vengeance be balanced? Tiberius chose a methodical approach. He strengthened defenses along the Rhine, positioning legions in carefully distributed fortresses. At the same time, he summoned Germanicus, a young and brilliant general, to lead punitive campaigns against the Germanic tribes. Germanicus was more than a strategist. He embodied the hope of restoring Rome's prestige. Through a series of meticulously planned battles, he brought terror to the Germanic tribes, recovered some of the lost eagle standards, and attempted to reverse the psychological blow of the defeat. But were these victories enough to shift the balance of power? Germanicus's campaigns showcased the enduring strength of the Roman legions, but also highlighted Rome's limitations in Germania. Despite military successes, the forests and swamps made permanent occupation nearly impossible. The cost of maintaining a presence in the territory was exorbitant, and the tribal resistance seemed endless. Germanicus triumphed on the battlefield, but his victories were fleeting. How did he cope with the frustration of fighting in a land that could never truly be conquered? Back in Rome, Germanicus's victories were celebrated with triumphal parades. Yet political leaders knew the cost of continuing the campaign was unsustainable. Now emperor, Tiberius adopted a pragmatic approach, stabilize the empire's borders along the Rhine, and avoid further deep incursions into Germania. For the Romans, the empire's security became more important than the glory of expansion. But what did this choice mean for Rome's legacy as an unstoppable force? The withdrawal of Germanicus and the consolidation of Rome's borders were more than strategic decisions. They marked a shift in Roman mentality. For the first time, caution outweighed the impulse to expand. Yet this prudence raised unsettling questions. To what extent had the defeat at Teutoburg shaped the empire's future? Had the Romans truly found the limits of their power, or were there deeper reasons behind the decision to abandon Germania? The Teutoburg Forest was more than just the site of a battle. It became a symbol of resistance against the greatest empire of the ancient world. For the Romans, it represented the dangers of arrogance and the limitations of military might. For the Germanic tribes, it marked a moment of unity and triumph. The victory allowed the tribes to maintain their independence, but it also raised an intriguing mystery. How did Arminius, with limited resources, manage to orchestrate such an effective campaign against such a powerful foe? What other secrets did this land hold? The Roman defeat exposed flaws in their strategy, but also highlighted the Germanic tribes' ability to use the terrain to their advantage. Even centuries later, historians debate how a leader like Arminius managed to convince fragmented tribes to unite against a common enemy. Despite their victory, the Germanic alliance didn't last long. Internal rivalries resurfaced, preventing Germania from becoming a unified entity. But what if the tribes had maintained their unity? Could Germania have risen to rival the Roman Empire itself? The battle's impact was felt not only militarily, but also culturally. For Rome, the Teutoburg Forest became a constant reminder that some frontiers were better left uncrossed. Decades later, this caution would influence decisions in other regions, including Britannia and the Middle East. Rome's image as an unstoppable force was shaken, yet paradoxically, this also strengthened the empire. By focusing on consolidating its borders, Rome managed to endure for centuries, but the cost of this pragmatism remains debated. Could the defeat at Teutoburg have ultimately saved Rome in the long run? For the Germanic tribes, the victory brought prestige, but also a new kind of pressure. The success against Rome created legends and myths that resonated for generations, but it also placed Germania under constant scrutiny from the empire. The Romans never forgot Arminius's name, but ironically, his own people viewed him with suspicion, leading to his eventual death. Was this truly an absolute triumph, or did it leave a legacy of disunity and vulnerability? Today, the site of the battle continues to captivate historians and archaeologists. Fragments of weapons, bones, and Roman coins found in the region offer clues to the scale of the disaster, but fail to tell the full story. How did the Romans truly perceive the events of that fateful day? And why did the Teutoburg Forest become such a watershed moment for both sides? The Germanic victory was a singular event, yet its lessons echoed for centuries, shaping the history of a Europe that was only beginning to take form. Did you enjoy uncovering how the defeat at Teutoburg shaped Rome's destiny and its borders? Then you can't miss the next video. Dive into the mystery of the Roman legions that vanished in history, like the famed Legio IX Hispana, and explore the decisions that turned glories into enigmas. Could these legions have changed the course of the Roman Empire? What really happened to them? Click now and join this fascinating investigation into courage, betrayal, and the secrets of Rome that continue to challenge historians to this day.